It's been a long time since God of War 3 hit the PS3, and finally we're getting a new entry in the form of God of War 2018, which is set years after the events of the past games. Kratos has since left Greece and settled down in the lands of Norse mythology. It starts right after the tragic death of Kratos' second wife. Her last wish was for her ashes to be spread at the highest peak, which sets Kratos and his son Atreus off on a journey to do so. The focus of the story is mainly on Kratos and his son. They grow and experience up and downs in their relationship throughout the game's 15 to 20 hour journey, and Kratos really struggles with what it means to be a father. After the events of the past games, he's somewhat of a broken man, really, was trying to figure out how to go forward after accepting what has happened in his past. He often refers to his son as boy and really struggles to find ways to connect and teach him. It's an amazing dynamic with fantastic writing that really pulls you in. There is a bit of a villain in this game, but he's not particularly built up that much or really covered a whole lot. He's really more of a backdrop for the actual story of Kratos and his son. And much like past God of Wars, Kratos finds himself in conflict with gods, this time the Norse gods, though, versus the Greek gods from before. You'll run into Norse mythological characters like Magni, Freya, Balder, and visiting different locations like Helheim, Jotunheim, Midgard, and Muspelheim. All these locations are beautifully rendered and look fantastic, with amazing writing and voice acting from all the famous characters that are in this game. As a whole, the story is really good, and definitely the strongest part of this game, but it does struggle a little bit with pacing. The game can be painfully slow at times as it drips out new information at a turtle-like speed. And far too often the game will throw a wrench into your plans by forcing you to take another path to get to your objective just as you're about to reach it. This wouldn't really be a problem, however it happens all the time, just as you're about to cross an objective, only for something story-wise, like a black cloud to block your path, or gameplay-wise, or a rock to fall, and suddenly stop all your progress and force you to take an alternative route to get there. And then the game has a ton of backtrack as well, because you have to constantly go back and forth as you get to an objective, and there's not really a lot of cuts in this game, or cutscenes really, that kind of speed up the progress of the game. As a result, you'll get to an objective, and then you have to go walk all the way back instead of, say, a cutscene or something that would kind of flush you through a lot faster. And then finally, one last thing about the story is the game does a really good job at blending gameplay and cutscenes together. There is no real hard cut or anything like that, or really any loading screens at all. You'll basically more or less get a seamless cutscene that'll transition into gameplay and then back to cutscene and then back to gameplay again. Like, for example, at the beginning of the game, there's a fantastic fight scene that takes place that is constantly moving between cutscene and gameplay over and over. It's amazing how well this game transitions from cutscene to gameplay. Now, moving on to the gameplay, it's a little bit more personal than past God of War games. It takes an over-the-shoulder perspective, and it's a great system with all sorts of different abilities, which you can unlock as you get different XP to spend. So you can get things like breaking an enemy's shield with your shield, or throwing rocks at them in Spartan Rage mode, or upgrading Atreus to stun enemies more easily, or giving a Kratos a way to deal area effect damage more easily. It's also an amazingly satisfying game to play, as throwing your axe and then recalling it feels great and makes you feel like Thor. The only real problem with the combat is that the balance is a little bit off. At the beginning quarter to half of the game, you can more or less just throw your axe constantly and spam through enemies. It's ridiculous. They don't have any dodging or really any way to get around it unless you crank the difficulty up a little bit. It's just kind of ridiculous until the mid to late stages of the game when enemies can actually dodge them or they can swarm you more to actually get around you simply axe throw spamming. Now, when I first heard that they were going to have a side mechanic with Atreus running along with you, I was a little bit worried that he was going to feel more like something you'd have to babysit to actually play the game. But he doesn't. He actually feels like a wonderful companion that adds a lot to the game. He's able to stun enemies with his ranged attack, or jump onto them, opening up opportunities for Kratos to attack, or calling in summons like bat swarms to attack or distract enemies for Kratos. It's fantastic. And you can use him to call him out and attack particular enemies to try and aggro them to get them away from Kratos. It just really does a great job at opening up new opportunities in the gameplay. You also get a pretty robust item system in God of War, which allows you to craft and upgrade new weapons and armor to make yourself and Kratos' son, Atreus, stronger. From a graphics perspective, this is one of the best looking PS4 games. Combined with the enhanced PS4 Pro graphics and the sounds, it's hard not to get fully drawn in and invested in this game. The attacks, the animations, everything just looks and sounds fantastic and really draws you into the world. Overall, the new God of War is a great entry to the series. The dynamic of father and son makes for a great way to progress Kratos' character, and I look forward to seeing what they do with the next one in the series. There's a couple of small issues like the pacing and the balancing of combat at times, but the game still felt incredibly strong. God of War gets a 9 out of 10.